Right, cool. I was just thinking which episode and series is this. So welcome back to the second episode of the second series of featuring regular people. Obviously, thank you so much for being here, tuning in, and listening to everything so far. Or if you haven't tuned in, then the guest that we have on tonight is going to be someone that you'll be really happy to listen to. Her name is Natasa. I met Natasa in Calais, which we did an episode on in the first season. But we were both volunteering for a charity called Care for Calais. She does lots of activism work, photography, has her own health and wellness festival and organisation, and just is an all-round kind of cool human being. So yeah, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. What an introduction. Wow.
He really sells people well, does Luke?
Well, I mean, it's great to see you. I mean, how are things in general?
Yeah, good. I mean, it's a weird season, isn't it? Because we're coming out of lockdown, but it's been winter. So it just feels like coming out of hibernation and almost like a rebirth. So I feel a bit confused and, I don't know, groggy, but feeling positive. So, and I'm really happy to be here and to see you again, Luke. It's really nice to see
you. Thank you. And yeah, I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? Because it kind of feels it should be spring. And last year, so it was my birthday. It's my birthday on Tuesday. And last year, I remember celebrating the day in a hammock in my garden, drinking loads of beers by myself, which was the kind of bad part to it. But this year, it's freezing.
Mate, it was so hot this time last year. It was hot in February last year, if I remember rightly, though. It was just roasting. That was when everyone started really freaking out about climate change, because it was just hot when it should be winter. I enjoyed it, though, personally.
It was nice. But, I mean, just talk to us a little bit more about, we'll talk about Calais firstly, because, you know, obviously that's where we met. That's how this whole journey has come together. But what was your kind of main inspiration for wanting to go to Calais? What did you do leading up to that point?
Quite a big question, and so many people ask me, but I think, so my background, I'm from Cyprus, so my dad's a refugee from the 70s, and obviously very different to the refugees who are living in Calais at the moment. So he was a European refugee in the 70s, and it was not an easy journey to the UK, but I would say more pleasant than probably a lot of the guys that we met there. So I've always been protesting on the streets about refugee rights, and it's one of my earliest memories as a child is going to protest with my dad. So it's always been ingrained in me. And then last June for Refugee Week, I did a whole story about my dad, and I started writing his memoirs, and then just through that started researching way more into the current refugee crisis. And then that was it. I was just like, I have to do something about this. I just want to go and help as much as I can. And the only way I know how is like a super hands-on approach. So I booked with a friend to go in March, and then the pandemic hit. So we had to cancel all plans, went up in the air, and then we rebooked for January, which is
January. Yeah. You got there, I think, 2 weeks prior to me, didn't you?
Yeah, I think that was right. Yeah, getting dates mixed up. But yeah, so arrived there in January. We were only there for 2 weeks. I think you were there for longer than us. But yeah, it was just a journey of everything being postponed and then back on and then postponed and back on. And then in the end, we were like, let's just set a date, and no matter what it takes to get there, we're going to go in January. So that's kind of a very broad journey into how I got to Calais.
I mean, to be honest, I had no idea about your dad's situation, and that kind of whole that part of the the reason why you were there doing that, which is it's a great place to take inspiration from. So yeah, that was a nice little bit of knowledge that I had no idea about. So yeah, thank you. I mean,
crazy. Like, quite sorry, Luke, to cut you off, mate, but like most people who kind of get involved with that sort of thing, I haven't heard of many people who have that close of a connection to it as to why they want to do it. But yeah, that's really cool. Sorry, Luke. Go on.
No. I was just saying that I went over because it sounds a lot much more of a bland reason. It's like I just felt like I needed to do something. But yeah, I mean, regardless, it was, the people over there were incredible, both the volunteers and obviously the people we met. And it was a great experience. But I mean, what was your kind of takeaway points when you came back to the UK? What did you think about most?
Well, firstly, I want to say, regardless of your journey of how you got there, it's so important that you even got there, because that's a really important step. And even more so for maybe somebody who's less connected to a cause, because it means you've gone and seeked that. Whereas I think it was definitely something ingrained in my DNA. So, everyone's journey is like as important as someone else's. But what I felt when I was there was that almost like you feel a bit helpless when you come back, and your biggest takeaway from it is that you're there trying to improve a very small portion of someone's life, and you can't do anything about the bigger picture. And it's the most frustrating thing. And you come home and you want to fight the fight for somebody who doesn't have as a privileged a voice as us in the UK, for example, but you also feel helpless because actually there's not that many people on the same team, you come to realize. So
yeah,
but it fuels you. You're like, okay, well, I just need to shout louder then. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do. And I've definitely focused a lot of my activism towards humanitarian issues. But I think my biggest takeaway from the guys specifically in Calais was that people and human beings are so resilient. And it was kind of like, I already was learning that from the pandemic and how resilient everyone is in the UK. Like, we just get up every morning and get on with it, and we've adapted so quickly. And then you go and meet the guys and they're living in the worst conditions that you could physically imagine, and they're there teaching you how to dance in the snow, and you're just like, what is happening right now? And you're crying and they're like, it's fine. And I'm like, this is you're not supposed to be comforting me, and I don't really know how to handle anything anymore. And it just totally like warps your vision on literally everything. And I think the guys in Calais have taught me so much, and they've given me more than I could ever give them in a million years. And anytime I feel a tiny complaint coming on, I'm like, hang on, perspective, we're fine, and then just get on with it. So yeah, I think that's definitely the biggest takeaway for me.
I think that's really cool, because obviously you went there to kind of get involved and help them and do what you can, but like you just said, they've ended up helping you. And was that something you anticipated going there, or were you just thinking you were going to go there, help out, but you weren't expecting them to have the kind of impact they did have?
I think I thought they would have an impact on me, because anyone you ever meet in life somehow affects you or teaches you something or has an effect on you. But I didn't think it would be to the scale that it has been, and to the point of they're actually my friends now, and they're just humans, obviously, and I'm kind of like theying them, but as a collective, it's very different when they become your friends. I guess I didn't really think I'd come away with people that I literally speak to every day and deeply care about them as individuals. So yeah, that part was unexpected for sure.
Yeah, it was. It was one of that was one of the things I thought mainly when I came back was, there would be a certain issue. So, for example, on the way back, and it was such a contradicting thought in my head and a conflicting thought is, I was meant to go back after 2 weeks as well, and ended up deciding to extend my stay. And I couldn't get a lift over because I don't know if you remember me saying, but a friend got rejected at the border trying to get into Calais. So I had to pay for the Eurostar back, and it cost me about £165.
Oh God.
Right, which is a ridiculous amount of money for an hour and 17 minutes worth of journey. But when I got on that thing, I just thought, you know what? Like, I've got it actually, in the grand scheme of things, that money is probably like, I don't know, my lunch out and coffee budget every month. And it's such an easy thing for us to do. And I just thought, what's the point of me getting pissed off about this? When I've just, you know, been able to hop on a train, buy a ticket on my phone, hop on a train and get in.
I think that journey home was when I found that the weirdest part of the whole experience was being on the boat home and seeing the lorries next to our car and thinking, I've just driven straight on here. And in that lorry next to me could be somebody as young as 12.
Yeah.
Literally risking their entire lives to make the exact same journey. And it was like something I just couldn't comprehend. And it was that part, I found that so difficult. And I think actually, Khan, to answer your question, that was like totally an unexpected feeling, that journey home. It became so much, it was just so different and I've done that crossing so many times, and it was that one time and I couldn't handle it. We were all just in tears and we were like, it's just luck. Like we're just lucky, and that's all it is. And it was very hard to handle that part.
And I think that's something a lot of people can't get their head round, because obviously we've talked about, the last time we did this episode, we kind of got into a bit of a wider discussion about like Britain's view towards like immigration and like just foreign people in general, and how literally the only difference between you and them is you just happened to be born here. Like, and I don't know, I just feel like some people, like, I was quite fortunate. I was raised with like quite forward-thinking parents who, and also just made an effort to make me aware that I was in a fortunate position to be like obviously everyone has their struggles in life, but if you've got somewhere to live and you've got clothes on your back, you're richer than like, I don't know, something like 98% of the world or something crazy.
I don't know if it's quite that much, but it's,
yeah, no, I'm just
along those lines. Just to,
it is a
you
lot.
know what I'm like. I'm a nerd for facts.
You'd have to fact check me, bro. But
yeah, I do love to be a fact checker.
It's like when you see people and the things they say, like they're like, it's just like they can't understand what it must be like to be in that position. And genuinely, the only difference is you just it's like when people say like, this is my country. It's like, why? Because you were born here. Like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, totally agree.
I mean, in a sense, it's funny, isn't it? How can you? Yeah, I don't understand. It's like, you know, get out of our country. It's like, well, it's not yours anyway. It's, you know, it's just a land that had some magic lines drawn around it. But I mean, obviously, you know, that was one of the more reality check and impactful things. The resilience was the positive thing. But what was like a standout memory for you? Like on you know, on a whole.
Oh my gosh, that's so
Apart from meeting me, obviously, I know that must have been a chart topper.
I mean, I didn't want to say, but I think there's sort of two, maybe. It's like one side is the volunteers, and like the second you walk into the warehouse on your first day, you're made to feel like family immediately, and there's no, because you know that you're in this really tough journey together, and you kind of, anyone who comes in, you're like, let's just get, like, the energy needs to be high, we all need to talk, we're gonna, at the end of the day, if anyone needs to debrief, we're gonna have to do it with each other, so let's just get close quickly. So I think that was like a really nice experience, and it can be quite daunting when you turn up and you don't, like, the unexpected is so scary, so to have these people just kind of take you in is just so nice. And then all of the guys who, they just want to teach you everything. So one of the guys on the first time I went to distribution, he made me a Sudanese coffee, And then we were joking and I was like, oh, this coffee's on me. And he was like, no, I'll get it, don't worry. And it was just like this kind of play. And I don't know, it was just just learning everything, and like learning Arabic, learning some Kurdish. I'm not as good as picking up the Kurdish, but I'm still learning Arabic. So that's like a big life change.
Oh, that's cool.
Happened. So yeah, I think it's lots of small things that turn into this one big thing that you take home, and you don't realize until someone asks you a question like this, where you start remembering the tiny memories and like the cheeky little faces when they try and run around and like sneak back in the queue, and you're like, come on. I don't know. I guess it's like the nature of being playful and yeah, just making a really shit situation just a bit bearable with like everyone involved. And especially when we were there, Luke, it snowed, and I went out in the morning where they all sleep at Three Bridges, and just seeing them all come out and play in the snow, because for the first time they'd seen snow, so they were just playing in it, and there was always like an element of play, and it kind of, yeah, a big takeaway was just when something's shit, just try and get through it somehow.
Yeah, just make the best out of it, and obviously just yeah, absolutely. And it was those little memories for me as well. It's like, I don't know, kind of, I think we briefly spoke about this a little bit before, but a lot of the part of the distribution which Natasa just referred to was, you would, people would get in a queue, and we would just, hand out as much stuff as we possibly could and try to make sure it was right for them. But yeah, people would obviously be sneaky and try, once they'd been in, they'd like, I don't know, put the hood up or like try and change jackets and get back in. Most of the time, I mean, it was to, to get something for a friend that wasn't able to be there. There were some very honest reasons. But yeah, it was that whole level of cheekiness, as in like, oh, I'm just going to cut in here next to my mate so I don't have to talk to anybody or just not talk to anybody. And yeah, there was loads of just like little random things like that, weren't there, that were absolutely hilarious. But I mean, so you obviously, before this, this isn't the only bit of activism that you do. There's lots of other aspects and elements to this which I'd really like to talk to. So I know in your photography work, you've got a whole bit on your website, which if anybody wants to check that out, we'll put the links in our channel, as we always do. It's incredible work, by the way. As you know, I'm in awe of what you do. I think it's fascinating, and it's just great. But talk to us a little bit more about your photography.
So I'm a photographer full time. That's my job, and I do quite a lot of protest photography, and trying to get into sort of photojournalism, but specifically for NGOs and charities. So people like Care for Calais or whoever needs a photographer.
If anybody's listening to this right now.
Shameless shout out there.
If you're planning a protest, then you need a photographer. That's as you go.
Exactly. But yeah, it's kind of been, when I started my activism with the climate emergency, so I joined Extinction Rebellion about 3 years ago, so near the beginning of when it first started, and I didn't actually know anybody in Extinction Rebellion, and I used my camera as my like partner in crime, and whenever I've got my camera with me, I always feel quite invincible, and like I can step into a crowd and be totally fine because I have a reason to be there. In a way, it's kind of a weird comfort blanket. So I took my camera to the first protest, got to meet loads of people, and then moved to Brighton shortly after and discovered the most amazing people here who are also part of Extinction Rebellion. One of whom is Hermione, who you met in Calais.
Yes, amazing girl.
Yeah, she's amazing. So she's like my activist bestie, we always say. So we we went to a lot of climate protests, and that's kind of where my protest photography began. So that was really cool. I was lucky enough to get published a few times and I just got this like amazing feeling from it. So it kind of continued. So whenever there's a protest in London or in Brighton, I just always go with my camera, and I still shout and I still get my rage out through my signs and my chanting and all the other important things. But yeah, I just happen to have an extra element with me, which is my camera. And my day job obviously isn't that. So my day job is more lifestyle photography, even though I wish every day there was a protest that I could be at.
Or on the flip side of the coin, they wish there was none, needed at all.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, everything would be great and I wouldn't need to do that, but unfortunately not. So yeah, my day job's a bit more just working with like small business owners, mainly female run, working on content for their websites and their social accounts, and I love it. I love every second. I love meeting people from all over the place and just hearing about their passion and their art, and connecting and collaborating is like just like such a core part of my job, and I just love it so much. So yeah, that's a bit about my photography at the moment.
And you said you work with mostly like female-run businesses. Is that like your choice, or is that just who you get approached by for work more often?
I think my style just really lends itself to a more feminine client. That's not to say I would ever turn down, I'm very open-minded. If anyone approached me and loved my style, then I would definitely consider working with them. If we get on and our everything aligns, then I would definitely do that. But my work's it's got quite a specific style and look to it, and I just think that happens to attract a more feminine client.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean. I mean, we had something similar when we were doing the first season of this, where we got to the 10th episode and we hadn't had a girl on yet.
And really?
That wasn't through deliberately like just always trying to make sure we had male guests. It was more just because, I don't know, I think the subjects we were covering and the people that we were close enough with that we could ask them to come on, it just happened that way. But yeah, I just wanted to ask.
Yeah. Sometimes
although, just to point this out, Natasa was actually originally meant to be on the first series.
I remember.
So there were some initial thoughts. I don't want to rub our own faces in the dirt too much, No,
because I don't know if he's told you this, Natasa, but I when I was speaking to Luke while he was in Calais, because we recorded a couple of episodes while he was out there, just because he ended up being out there for a while. I remember him saying, I've met this really cool girl, like she does all this cool stuff, like she's an activist. Basically, how he introduced you at the start, I'd heard that already once before. And obviously we tried to get you on them, but yeah, it's cool that we've managed to get it sorted now.
Yeah, he did. He actually did mention that. I was like, we have to book a time, and then it just didn't happen. But it's fine. It's happening now, and that's what's important. So
Exactly.
Thanks for having me on.
No, it's great. I mean, there was a couple of shots that really stood out to me, and I think the Extinction Rebellion stuff. Actually, I think they were the most. I don't know how to say it. I don't want to say potent because. But yeah, so there was a shot where it was about consumerism and fast fashion, and it was just. There were such powerful images. And I mean, so when you went there, when you are trying to deliver these projects, what's the kind of creative process for you? And, how do you think, right, this is what I'll do and this is how I'll get the message out there through my work?
I think it's super important to align with any job that you put yourself forward for. So with my line of work, I'm constantly putting myself forward for work. It's just how the freelancing world works for me. And when you're super passionate about something and then you win a pitch, or for example with the protesting, when you're actually there and you actually care about what's going on, I think you just naturally see and create alongside other people who are doing what they're also passionate about. So for example, with the fashion action or any protest, the people who you're photographing are so passionate about the cause, because that's why they're there on the street shouting. So their passion meeting your passion just always is going to create something quite beautiful and quite strong. So it's definitely a collective effort. If it wasn't for them, I didn't have that photo. But if I were to go to a job, you see it quite a lot with not to put down any line of work, but a lot of the photojournalists that are just there mainly against what you're fighting for. So probably mainly right-wing newspaper photographers.
My favourite.
You know, the ones you read.
yeah, the Sun, the Mail. I just love those, you know.
Factual, that's what I like.
But they're just there to get the money and get the shot, and like all they're thinking about is their paycheck. They're not thinking about anything else. Not all of them, obviously. I am generalizing, but you can just tell a lot of them are just trying to push to the front, get the shot, and then leave. And it's like, that's not what I'm about. I'm about being a bit more in, you know, like fully immersing myself into something. And it's kind of like in Calais, actually. I know that we keep going back to that, but it's just something that happened. But
no.
I initially was meant to go there as a photographer to create some content, and then it just turns out that they didn't really need that, but I still came as a volunteer. And for the first week I just fully immersed myself in the volunteering, and then in the second week Claire asked me to bring my camera. So I had already fully immersed myself in the situation, so then I felt like I was being way more authentic with what I was capturing, instead of just being there for a day not really understanding what's going on and then just shooting aimlessly hoping to get a good photo. So I think creating, like always making sure I'm photographing something I'm passionate about, is how to get like a strong image.
Is it almost like if you weren't there with your camera, you would be there anyway?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That was very good, Khan. Yeah, you can tell he's the more creative one. Yeah.
Occasionally, I have a good thought.
Once maybe every 5 episodes, there is something positive. That no, I'm only joking. But I mean, the work that you shot whilst you're in Calais, the majority of it plastered all over the Care for Calais Instagram page. It's plastered over my Instagram page. It's over my LinkedIn, my Facebook as well, actually. So your work is all over my socials. So thanks for that. As you know, I have credited it, of course. But it was just, you know, some of the images and the ones that stand out for me about Calais were when it was snowing and you were at the bridges. And there was an image of the tent under the bridges, and there was 3 tents there, and there was one. Sorry, I'm doing this. There was one here, and then there was a few here. And one of the tents was just covered in snow, but the person's boots or something like this, or an item of theirs, were outside the tent. And my God, it was just, you know, when I saw those uploaded and the kind of end product of it, I thought, on one side, it was heartbreaking because a lot of situations were heartbreaking in Calais. But on the other hand, I thought, you know, what a great way to kind of paint that story. And I thought it was a really nice, positive way to do that. And it's powerful. It really is. But yeah. No, I obviously appreciate it a lot. But I was about to say, why do you think it's such a powerful tool? But I guess you've kind of covered that a little bit. I don't know if there's any other elaborate points that you'd like to put on that one.
I think just the reason that photography is powerful in general is because you're capturing a moment in time that will last forever, or as long as, I don't know, who knows what the next technology is, but at the moment it's going to last forever. And the fact that you can share something that's super important and super like not shown at all in mainstream media, you can share that one image with the entire world essentially at the moment, just through the power of Instagram. And if you use social media in a positive way like that, I think it can be one of the most powerful tools that we have. So the fact that you can show someone who may not, you know, especially these days, like where they may not be able to get to Calais, or actually don't know at all what's going on, you can show them these images, and then an image can spark a thousand feelings. So people may then be called to take action on something that they had no idea about previously. And I think that's what's so powerful about a photo or a video.
I think it's like pictures can like show things that you can't sort of describe to people with words as well. Like obviously you guys say I hadn't seen any photos of like where you guys were in Calais. Like you done a pretty good job of describing it and telling me what it was like. But while Luke was there, like some of the stuff he shared and just some of the photos I was seeing, like when people tell you about harsh conditions and stuff, you have an idea in your head of what it's like. But like you were saying with the tents and the snow, when you see that, it just makes it so much more real. And when you see a photo, it's easier for you to imagine yourself in that situation because you can see the environment. Whereas if someone's just describing it to you, it's more difficult to do that. So I think, yeah, like photography is just really important for that reason. It just, shows
That's
you
actually,
not be described.
Yeah, that's really true. It's like you can't if you can't imagine a situation because you don't know what the landscape is, you can super like disassociate from it, and it becomes something that, well, I can't see it, it's not my issue, and I can't even imagine it because I've never been to Yemen or Syria. Whereas if someone shows you an image, then you've suddenly got the landscape, you've got the people, you've got people's eyes. And I think capturing humans and just especially their eyes, when you're looking into somebody's eyes, there is no way you can ignore what's going on. So you're kind of creating that image so that people feel like they can put themselves in it and be like, oh wow, this is a real issue, and this isn't that far, this is actually happening on this planet at this time that I am living into. And yeah, you're totally right, Khan.
And I'm sure you'll both be familiar. This is the kind of the best example of what I'm trying to say for me is that picture of that little boy who's about 2 years old and he's like face down on the beach where he's obviously died with his family trying to get over here. And I remember seeing that photo and that was like all over the media. That is such a representation of how real this issue actually is. Like, because if there's one, even like the most cold-hearted person must be able to look at a picture of like a dead baby essentially and be like, fuck, this is like a serious issue.
Definitely.
Although, if you go by Facebook comments, then it's unfortunately the very opposite on certain aspects of it.
I can't look at it anymore. I really can't. Facebook's going to go for me. I've said this so many times, but I just don't even know why I have it. Like, I mean, it gets more negative every day.
Yeah, I've been to, I don't even know now how many protests, and the number one rule is never read the comment section because it's never really lovely people who have been there with you. It's always little angry.
Because the really lovely people are out there doing something about it. It's the really horrible people who are there writing their shit opinions on the internet.
Yeah, it's never. I mean, I do it sometimes, and I get really sucked in, and I'll admit that.
As soon as you reply to one, Luke, I see you do it I never get involved.
Pisses me off.
I never get involved. Like, because they've always got some terrible response, and like it's like someone's that ignorant that you're not going to win because they're never going to be like, oh, do you know what, you've changed my mind, thank you so much. No. Like, it just doesn't fucking happen.
It will never happen. I remember we did a protest in Brighton, like on the beach, as soon as we got back from Calais, because Hermione and I were just so like didn't know what to do, so we did this protest, and it ended up in the paper, and someone was like, send those protesters back where they came from. And I was like, we're in Brighton, we're from Brighton, like you can't. I was just like, this comment doesn't even make any sense. And then I just got totally sucked in, and I was like, oh no.
You've bitten, that's what they wanted.
I mean, yeah, I don't. Maybe they just wanted you to get the bus home so they could enjoy their time on the beach and social distance. You know, it's. No, I remember. Yeah, I looked at those images as well because we did the kind of correlating ones from the warehouse, and then yeah, it made the papers, which was great. I mean, it's. I wasn't actually going to talk about this, but I think it's really important that we do. So I apologise for putting you on the spot so much, but the protesting side of things has obviously always been a very dividing situation. It's about to become a lot more divided with the new police and crimes bill, or whatever the official terminology is. But what's your thoughts on the bill, and how do you think it's going to affect the kind of thing that you do in the future?
I really, really, really think, well, a massive part of me wants to think something like this could never go, like this could never happen. But then you think of the history of even the past 2 to 5 years of this country, and you're like, surely not, surely we're not going to vote to leave the EU. Surely, like all these things, and then they happen, and you're like, oh shit, this is going downhill fast. And then so with this bill, I was like, surely, absolutely not. And I still think there's a big chance it can change. It obviously massively affects a lot of my life. And when it first was released, or when we were allowed to read the entire bill, it was just heartbreaking, because it's kind of, yeah, it's a massive part of my entire life and what I do. And I don't know. I honestly don't know what would happen if it passed as it is currently, but there's so much chance for it to change. And if anyone's listening, just literally anyone, and you have any sort of opinion ever, you have to sign for the bill to get changed, because even if it's not something you agree with what I've said, if you have a passion and you one day think you might need to fight for it, you won't be able to. So whether, I don't even know what, but just anything, like if you're worried that you're suddenly going to get a pay cut, or your whole industry is going to get a pay cut, even you will one day might need to fight that. And I've thought about it so many times, like because obviously Priti Patel's heading this whole thing, and I just think, what if tomorrow Boris Johnson says all women in the UK are going to get a 50% pay cut? She won't even be able to fight that. She won't be able to protest that herself. She'll just have to accept that, and she would have done that to herself. So it's just like, it just blows my mind. It fills me with so much rage. And yeah, I just think if you're angry about literally anything, just sign against the bill, because you will never be able to shout about it. It's going to silence people, and there's so many levels to it. I think that's a whole other conversation, but
we'll do part 2 soon, shall we?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the issue. Like, you make a good point about, even if you don't care about that, if you care about something, you need to fight it, because people only care when it's affecting them. Like, and they like you say about Priti Patel, like, obviously that'd be horrible if all women got a 50% pay cut, but there'd be some beautiful irony in that happening to her. But obviously that won't ever happen. That's just an exaggerated issue, which would be horrible. But yeah, people only care when it's something that's directly affecting them. But it's one.
And this is directly affecting every single person that lives in the UK. So this is what frustrates me a lot of the time with those comment sections and just conversations that you have, and people are like, oh, just stay home. And it's like, no, you should actually come out here, because this affects you. And like, okay, fine, you don't agree with the climate emergency, you don't agree with BLM, you don't agree with refugee lives matter, and like whatever else bizarre thing that you should care about, but you should, like, surely you care about like literally anything, and one day you won't be able to fight about that. So it's like so hugely important, and that's just one part of the bill.
I mean, it's a crazy thing, isn't it? Because there was, recently there were the kind of 2 different sides protesting. So there were the anti-lockdown. I think it was like stand up for change or something like this. It was like anti-vaccine, anti-masks, with the lovely speech from Jeremy Corbyn's brother, which blew my mind. But yeah, so they had that. And then there was obviously the kind of extra BLM and stand up to racism marches. And I was sat there looking at the two events kind of unfold, thinking, whilst both of those sides probably hate the other side, and they, very much do in a lot of aspects, they're kind of fighting for the same thing at that same time without even realizing. And I think the bill should have created a bit of unity, because everybody should have just said fuck you to the government. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, do you think things can get better?
Yeah. We can
You're a lot more optimistic than me.
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, I listened to a podcast yesterday, not your one, but a different podcast. I know, I do listen to other podcasts, crazy. And the woman said, all we can do is try. Like, that's literally all you can do, because if you're not trying, then you're not doing anything. So yeah, I think it can get better, and all we can do is try and make it better.
Absolutely. And it was that's a nice way to finish up on that one. Now, obviously this has been a little bit more of a serious conversation for one of our episodes. So I do want to finish it on a very nice, positive project that you're working on at the moment, which is specific, and it's just quite a really exciting time for you, which is your van project. So I've seen a little bit of what you're doing with that, but and it's quite a big in thing at the moment, isn't it? I think a lot of people have got some extra time on their hands, so they are trying to invest in, creating their own space to go and travel with once we're able to. But yeah, tell us a bit more about what you're doing.
So I'm converting a Mercedes Sprinter into a tiny home, which is so exciting. And we've been saving for this for about, since we got back. So it's my partner and I. So since we got back from Australia, which was 5 years ago, that's how long we've been saving. And then we just chose perfect time when everyone else is doing the same thing to do it. So we actually did struggle quite a bit to find a van, but we finally found one. So yeah, we're converting it into just a little house, probably, who knows, but the way things are at the moment, it might be the only home we ever own. So that's what's happening. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy, like learning so many new skills, like how solar works, which I've never even sat and thought about really. And now it's like, oh wait, so the sun heats something up and then electricity happens, and you're just like, I actually don't understand. Like, I haven't actually had to sit and figure it out before. So it's really cool, like learning new stuff, learning how to do plumbing and cut windows and build everything. So it's really cool. And it is like something nice to be doing in a time where travel seems like a distant dream. So it would be nice to have a bit of freedom and just do a few like little UK staycations. And yeah, I don't know, I mean, it's going to take us a bloody long time to do it, so by then who knows what will happen, but at least we'll have an option.
Were you or your partner particularly like DIY savvy prior to taking this on, or?
Wait, sorry, can I chime in before you, Natasa? Sorry. So, Khan, when I first overheard Natasa talking about her van project, it was in Calais in the warehouse, and I remember this specifically. And she was talking about heating and boilers and stuff like this. And I chimed into the conversation, not having heard the context. And I was like, pretty sure that's illegal. Like, you can't fit a boiler. And you know what I'm like, again, a nerd for facts. Like, yeah, you can't fit a boiler without having a proper license. Thinking she was going to do it to a house.
Yeah.
And I just, after I realised it was about a van, I thought, oh, fuck, what a knob.
Health and safety officer here. You can't do that, actually.
Yeah. I felt like, The Office, and he's the assistant, Dwight, yeah. I felt very much like Dwight.
Yeah, Luke just goes and reports me.
Yeah, it was straight and writing her up,
Are we DIY savvy? I mean, I was pretty confident at the beginning of the project because I built a bed one time. However, as we progress into the project, I mean, I'm like confident for no reason because I've never done this before, but I'm like, yeah, it's going to be fine. Like, we'll just cut here and there and da-da. And then my partner's a bit more like heavily researching everything and making sure we've got the right tools. So I think we're a good balance, but I would say none of us have done like a big DIY project before. So, I mean, building a tiny home is diving in the deep end, but there's a lot of resources out there. So we're watching YouTube every day and just like trying to learn as much as we can. And we're still quite adamant to do everything ourselves. At one point we were going to get an electrician in to do the electricity, but now we think we may have nailed it and we might just give it a go anyway. So I don't know, we'll see. We just cross our fingers and make it up as we go along and see what happens.
I think that'll make it so much more rewarding though. Like if you, obviously when you get it done and everything works, like, yeah, that'll be good.
As long as everything works, that'll be amazing.
And then also,
as long as you don't blow up.
If things don't work, you've only got each other to blame. So that's perfect.
And then we'll just argue and that'll be the end of that.
Yeah, someone's got to fix it. I'm not fixing it, you fix it. But no, I know what you mean. I built basically when me and my girlfriend moved in here, I built a bed and it's like one of those mental ones that like lifts up and stuff. So like,
wow.
like every time someone comes around, I like show it to them. I'm like, yeah, look what I did. How sick is this? And like, yeah, I don't know. Like my dad is super good with his hands. So I told him and he just wasn't impressed at all. But I was pretty happy with myself when I did that. But yeah, I think building a tiny home in a van is a bit of a step up. So yeah, props to you. Because
we're already going way ahead of ourselves as well. Like we're like, why don't we just build a house? Like get a bit of land and just build a house. And I'm like, I love
the optimism. I rate it. Because Luke told me, like, obviously when we were running down what we're going to talk about tonight, Luke was like, oh, and like just for like something nice to sort of top it off, we talk about she's like renovating a van to live in. That's one of my dreams. I actually annoyed my girlfriend recently I needed to get a new car, and I was like, I'm just going to get a van and live in that. And like, obviously I was joking, but that is something I want to do eventually because I just think...
Is this why you're moving out now, Carl?
Yeah. He's like, go and live in a fucking van. No, but no, that is something I want to do eventually, like, because when I was traveling like around Australia, I met loads of people who had done it, and it seemed like the sickest thing. And like I was saying to you before, like it just must be such a rewarding feeling just to live in somewhere that you built it all yourself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the first night in it and just being like a big deep breath out, that
turning the light on, like, ho, that was me.
Yeah,
doesn't work.
No, it'd be cool. I mean, if you ever do it, let me know. I can give you.
You will now be the first person I contact.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know how helpful I'll be, but...
Well, I'll wait and see if you build yours successfully first.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're thinking actually if it turns out well, we'll put it on Airbnb so like lots of people can enjoy it. So you might want to try it out before you buy one.
Oh, some big shout outs here, Natasa, tonight. Yeah. Now I am conscious. I mean, obviously we wanted to talk about, we got a bit sidetracked, and I want to talk about Daisy Chain because I know obviously it's something really important to you, and kind of scrolling through and doing a little bit of research prior to the podcast. It's really important. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, funnily enough, talking of going back a conversation of the power of a photo. So my friend rang me in tears because she saw a photo of a child in Yemen who was, again, like quite a graphic image, and she had no idea of the crisis happening in Yemen, even though it's the largest humanitarian crisis we've ever seen. And I only knew about it because of the world I live in, I guess, and realised that that's quite a small loop. If you're not in it, maybe you don't actually know too much about what's going on in the world. So we created Daisy Chain Festival as a direct action from us educating ourselves on what was going on in Yemen. And we created a 2-day online festival in November that had musicians, and it was a wellness and arts festival. So we had yoga teachers, journaling, spoken word artists, art and crafts workshops, and it was over 2 days, and all the tickets were on a donation basis, and 100% of the money raised went to an amazing charity called Mercy Relief, who help directly with emergency aid in Yemen. And then the festival we had some amazing feedback, and it was quite successful, and we wanted to keep the momentum going and didn't want to stop, and we're going to do the next one in November again. But we've created these kind of days, they're called daisy chain sessions, so they're like 1 hour or 1 to 2 hour sessions every month, where we raise money. Again, it's all donated tickets, so we never want to we want to make it as inclusive as possible. And then every sort of quarter of a year, we're changing the charity that we donate the money to. So we did Care for Calais for the first quarter, and now
big up Care for Calais.
had a massive impact on my life. And now we're raising funds for another amazing charity called Freedom from Torture, who I used to work for. And I actually learnt about them in Calais, so that was another Calais connection. So yeah, it's kind of this really cool thing that connects people, and we try and educate everyone on the causes that we're raising money for. Just again, because my business partner and friend, she's called Ivana, she wasn't aware of these issues, and she's like, I'm really keen to like learn with people who are following us or who want to attend the festival. So it's just been this like really nice project where it feels like I'm actually acting on, doing something active towards a lot of the issues going on in the world, or trying to anyway.
Yeah, so it's kind of incorporating your, the activism work, which a lot of it is, as we all know, is voluntary as well. But trying to make sure that you can incorporate that into like an organizational type of, like a social project.
Yeah.
Which is, it's fascinating. And, we will obviously put the links to everything below. And if you have any in-person or online things, coming up in the future, please let us know. And, me and Khan want to, there's a chili festival we're going to.
Well, yeah,
we're going to see a MMA fight from our last series.
Yeah, we want to try and interact more like personally with people that we've had on. What did you say about the Chili Festival? And then we're going to watch, we had an MMA fighter on last season, and we're going to watch him fight in July. That would be cool.
No way, that's cool.
Yeah, so.
Well, definitely the festival in November. It's still going to be online, but one day, not this year, but maybe, we'll see. I'm not going to make any promises, but we want it to be a physical festival. So, but definitely come to the virtual one as well if you're around in November. And
we can hit up a protest sometime.
Pardon?
We can hit up a protest sometime as well.
Yeah, definitely come to a protest. If you ever need a protest, buddy, let me know. I don't mind what it's for. Just if someone shouts
photos of me so people knew I was here and that I care, please.
The only reason to go, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to go see some friends, there's been so many. There's probably so many more things that I could ask you about, but the last question, because I appreciate that we've taken up 1 million hours of your time, is what's next? A couple of little things, if you can, and only talk about the stuff that you can talk about, of course.
Oh my gosh. I'm definitely one of those people that need to maybe slow down a bit, but I have a bajillion projects going on. But actually, Hermione and I are starting a campaign alongside Daisy Chain Festival. So it's going to be 4 Daisy Chain Festival, but Hermione and I, well, it's mainly Hermione's idea that I jumped on board and then kind of helped evolve. So we're coming up with a campaign that's going to share the stories of a lot of the guys that we met in Calais and a lot of people that we've met now that we're back in the UK. So that's a really exciting project that's coming up. So that will be also connected to Daisy Chain. So that's all going to be over on Daisy Chain. So, and we're hopefully also going to be bringing out a podcast with Daisy Chain. So maybe
stealing our ideas, you know.
Podcasts are a booming business right now. Everyone's doing one. It's the right time for sure.
We'll exchange tips. I'll give you van tips and you give me podcast tips.
Yeah, deal.
I feel like your van tips will be much more insightful.
I'll be like, yeah, so what you want to do, you want to download Zoom, and then it's really easy. You just go new meeting. No.
Click record.
Yeah.
Chat shit.
It is that simple to put your opinions out there.
But no, I mean, it's been absolutely great having you on. Thank you so much for giving up some of your time as well. I know that, as you just said, you know, a bajillion, is that a real word? Projects is probably not the easiest way to manage your time. But yeah, we really appreciate it. We'll put all the links into our socials as we always do, and into all of this below and around me. I never know where Khan puts them. Sometimes they're to the side, up, down, I don't know. But we'll put everything in. Please follow Daisy Chain, follow Natassa's work. Her link to her photography is on her Instagram as well. Check it out. It is, without sounding too crass, it's fucking brilliant. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and it would be lovely to catch up with you, hopefully in person at some point this year. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yay, thank you. It was so nice to be here and to meet Con and see you again, Luke.
Yeah, it was nice to meet you as well. Yeah, big time.
Little virtual hug.
Wicked. All right, well, thank you very much for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Same as always, like, subscribe. Everything will be down below. You know how it is. Thanks a lot, guys.